Hello, my name's Kathy Bissell. Welcome to the Golf Show 2.0. This week, our guest is a photographer who plays some pretty interesting golf. Gary, why don't you tell us all about it?
I don't know if it counts as being a job, Patrick, but Patrick Koenig did what every avid golfer like us dreams of. He spent the entire year playing golf constantly, a world record 580 rounds in 365 days, edging the previous mark by about 130 some rounds. Have you ever had a real job, Patrick? I mean, this sounds like that was insane.
Well, this was the job this year, and anybody that kind of came along, and I got to correct you, it's not rounds, it's different golf courses.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah, that makes it special. There's certainly, I think this year somebody played 650 rounds, but I don't know how many courses that was on. But I'm venturing to say it was probably less than 100. But yeah, that's what was that was cool, is that I got to see the country. And it was at times there's definitely a lot of, I wouldn't call it work, but there's a lot of effort that goes into something like this, from just the playing and the organizing and getting to 580 different golf courses. I was at 41 states and 3 countries over the course of a year. And there was a lot of highs and lows. The lows are low and the highs are high when you do something like this. But it was a dream come true to actually get to play golf. I mean, this much golf. I think most people would say, I'd like to do that, but probably do maybe a third of the golf, because that would still be quite a bit.
It's a lot of golf.
Yes.
Who made your tee times for you? Did you make them?
I was in charge of everything. I tell people that I did the job for 5 different people, because you could have certainly broke it down into 5 different categories of, I did all the tee times, I did all the planning, I did all the driving, I did almost all the social media. I had a couple great partners that helped out with a little bit of the production and trying to share the story of the tour. Echo Golf and Stewart Golf, my guy Stewie's little motorized golf cart that saved my back. And then Breakfast Balls was my apparel provider. And then most importantly was Golf Gamebook, where I kept all of my scores throughout the year. It's a social and digital scorecard. There was a lot of effort put into it on my end, but I happily did it. It was, because you get to play these places. And so I was thrilled to be working 24/7, 365.
Well, Gary has played a lot of golf courses, but not all in 1 year or one season or
it took me 50 some years to play 1,500 plus courses. That's and at this rate, you're gonna, if you keep this last year's pace up for 60 years, you can play every course on the planet.
Well, I don't even know if that's possible. But I at this pace, I might, my spine might flat on my back in the next 5 years. So, this pace will not be continued.
Well, they're between 15 and 16,000 in the United States, and I think they're about between 5,000 and 6,000 in Europe.
30 to 35,000. I don't know.
Okay, most of them are here.
I think I don't think there's a real. I've been searching for it, but I think the existing record for the golfer that's played the most different golf courses in a lifetime. I think somebody's up there around like 5,000. I think that's the most anybody's.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And that's insane. If you're over, it's one of those numbers that, when I mentioned that, people will say, oh, I've probably played a couple hundred. And I was like, no, you probably played less than 25. Because unless you travel for golf, on a regular basis, the number just doesn't go up that quickly. Yeah. And so if there's very few people on this planet that have played more than 1,000 golf courses.
Yeah.
Well, you'd be surprised. There's a lot of nuts out there. We've had a guest on here, a friend of mine. He has an app called Golf Played, which you go on to and you punch in every course you've played anywhere in the world. And what suckers you in is when you get done, there's a map of the world and there's a red pin stuck on every course you've played. And once you see that map, you're like, oh, I got to do this. Yeah. was a free app, and now after a couple of years of not making any money, he's charging $8. But you might need to hire another person to type in your courses played already with the because you did the similar thing in 2018. I saw where you played over 400 courses. So in 2 years, and then you had apparently, I guess you were an intern at the State Golf Association in Wisconsin. My old buddies there, and you knocked off another 70 or 80 there. I mean, you've played 1,000 courses in just 3 years that I know of. So you are up there. But the leader on golf played right now, I think, is 2,600, and there's maybe another guy over 2,000, and 1,500's got me like in 6th place of the people who were on the app. So
yeah, so there's definitely some people, and that's what's fun about golf is that you're never run out of places to go, never run out of courses to play. And I mean, at this rate, with the boom we're having in golf, you could stay busy just enjoying the new golf courses that pop up across the world and the country, and a lot of really cool things. But yeah, my number, I think I'm approaching 1,700 total courses played, and so I didn't really start giving it an aggressive push until about 2018 when I said I just love golf courses, and so I decided to see them all.
Well, tell us, how this idea to do what you did last year came about. The average person wants to know, why would you do this? And really you want to know how many miles did you put on the RV, and what did you spend on gas for the year?
Oh.
That's the main question. We're all about the gas cost.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the idea came when I did my first tour, and that was just born out of a desire to see the golf courses of the United States and see if I could cut it as a golf course photographer. And that worked out. But towards the end of that first tour, somebody told me that the world record was 449 different 18-hole golf courses. And didn't change my plan. I just kind of stayed on my path, but it always kind of stuck with me that, just kind of doing what I wanted to do. I played 400 and I was just 50 courses short of a world record. So it always seemed like, hey, if I'm going to do this again, that would be the goal. And it's an interesting thing for people to follow along because it's a great journey, and there's a number associated with it. So it was very, very fun to kind of chase after that world record in that regard. And those that follow along, I'm sure, shared that sentiment. So that, and it came along when Golf Gamebook gave me a call. We just had we're having a conversation about their presence here in the United States, and this idea came up, and then it just started rolling. The ideas put out, we could do this or this, and so then after that first call, it was going to happen. And when they offered to pay for the gas bill and cover the cost of the tour, I said, well, tell me where to sign, because I am all in. And
how many miles did you drive last year?
35,000 miles, was just under 35,000 miles. And I think that's somewhere around $40,000 in gas. It was quite a chunk. Most people,
what's that get thing about 8 miles a gallon, 6 miles a gallon?
Yeah, 8 to 10, I think it was. It certainly beats getting a hotel and then packing and unpacking. Those costs would have been absurd. And so I think there's a value there, but any way you slice it, this is an expensive endeavor, which is why I think that record will stick for quite some time. Because in order to even attempt this, it's not like you just go in your backyard and try to do something like this. You got to say, all right, I got nothing to do next year, and I got $250,000 that I want to blow on golf. Let's go. And then I don't think anybody's saying that. And somebody might eventually, and I'm sure there's somebody out there with an empty year and a bank, a bankroll that might attempt to do it, but usually they're not down for this amount of energy expended. If you're living on easy street already, and I'm certainly not a wealthy man by any means, but I do have some great friends that made this happen, and so I can't thank Golf Gamebook enough for the support and because it wasn't just here's the go at it. They were very involved in everything and just supportive, and I'm proud to be a part of the RGV tour. I mean, Miko and Timu over there were my two guys and the whole staff really was very supportive, and when things would break, they were happy to cover the costs, and not everything went to plan, but they were along for the ride, and that was I mean, some great friends this year.
What was your first course you played, and what was your last course you played?
Yeah, it's interesting because the first course on this tour was Monarch Beach Golf Links here in Dana Point, Laguna Beach, Southern California. And then the last one was Chambers Bay. And the thing that's interesting about Chambers Bay is that it's a great golf course. And I used to live in Seattle, and that's where I kicked off my first tour. So when the first tour happened in 2018, I played my first round of golf at Chambers Bay. And then about 5 years later, I played my or 6 years. It would have been 6 years. I played my final round on the second tour. So kind of a full circle in terms of the golf courses. But yeah, I love Chambers Bay. Hopefully they love me back.
Well, I know one person who loves Chambers Bay, maybe two. But I don't know if the rest of them do. Who played the U.S. Open there.
It didn't work out so well for the Open, especially for spectators. But
well, I think that anybody that's been to Chambers Bay and played the golf course and knows anything about architecture or what makes a good golf course would say that Chambers Bay is a fantastic, really good golf course. I think it's probably it's my favorite design that he's ever done. And they just got an awful look with the USGA that came in there and did some things that the course wasn't really ready for, the way they browned it out. And it was the turf conditions. The greens have never been good at Chambers Bay. That's to be certain. And they've gotten much better now with the POA grasses out there. But what I've always encountered and what everybody else has encountered is nothing like the bad rep that it got at the U.S. Open. So that was a shame, but I think we can all agree it was sure fun to watch.
Well, it was difficult for the spectators. I don't think I don't know how many they let on. And I was there as media. Gary was there as media. And it was a difficult walk in the places that you could walk, and they wouldn't let you go to a lot of places.
If you're walking along with a group right away in the first hole, you probably couldn't get down to the green. I mean, you had to circle around. There was just no direct route for people. And, Jones put those cart paths, he kind of lowered them behind these mounds for aesthetics for the players, which was great. But that's where they had the fans walk, and the fans are on these cart paths behind mounds. They can't see over them. So there was really no viewing points on a lot of places.
The grandstands were all the grandstands that they had on each green were great, but it wasn't easy to get from one to the next.
Exactly.
Which is, it's a day-to-day course. I don't think that they built that to host a U.S. Open. Otherwise, they would have created it, I think, a little differently. But for day-to-day play,
well,
and they've got people walking through there too. They treat it as a resource for the public.
Well, on the plus side, it had a railroad tracks going through the edge of the property. So I'm all for that.
Yeah, how cool is that? You get a train coming by. Most people are like, "Oh, it's going to be loud." It's like, no, everybody loves the train up there.
That's just like something out of Scotland.
You're right. Yeah, it's very cool. One of the
what really intrigued me, you put something out about there were only 73 golf holes on the Pacific Ocean in California.
Yes.
And I don't know if you're the first person to come up with that number or not, but how did you get that number? And I thought I heard that. It just struck me. It's like, well, that can't be right. Surely there must be more than that. And talk about how you came up with that list or where you got it from. And did you play them all?
I'll get into it. So it was a Saturday. I remember I was just sitting around, and somehow this idea of this just popped into my head, and it's like, let's figure this out. I probably played every single one of them because I've pretty exhaustive experience in terms of golf courses in California. And so I went through and I literally got on Google Earth and just went up the coastline and looked at all of the things in there. And I'd known most of the golf courses, and I played almost all of them. There's a couple ones that I added on. One that I added on after this tour, which is Sea Ranch Links, which is that one hole on there. My criteria for it to be on the considered on the Pacific Ocean, right? Because there's some holes that you can see, but it's not really there. Was that you have to be able to see the ocean from the golf hole. And you also have to be able to hit a wedge, a pitching wedge or a wedge, whatever, 100 or so yards into the ocean. So it's you got to get intimate with the sea to figure out this list. So when I was just kind of going through there, I was searching, and I couldn't
there
find
couldn't be an Arby's in the way, right?
Yeah, no Arby's, no, you couldn't have.
I really like Arby's, so I'm going to have to. I'm upset about this point.
Arby's is good. Arby's is good, but you got to keep it on the right side of the golf course now. You got to put it back. The golf has got to get cozy with the sea. And so, when I went through that list, it was fun. I put it together, and I Google searched. I couldn't find anybody that done it before, and so I don't think that list existed, but it does now. And it's a cool one. But I played one, and then I have yet to play Sea and Air, which I think fits that criteria down in San Diego. You have to be I think my sister's going to hook me up here shortly. She's got a military connections and a military background, but you have to be a military or a guest of military personnel to play Sea and Air, which I think has a couple holes that fit that criteria. But those are the only couple holes that remain on the Pacific Ocean in California that I've not played. It's kind of a fun list.
Aren't you going to expand it to
Oregon and Washington?
There are not very many on those coasts, are there? Washington and Oregon?
Yeah, that's the thing. So I was like, well, how many holes are there really? Washington's got an interesting coastline too, because it kind of comes in and there's it's more of a sound. You got the Puget Sound that is like Chambers Bay is on the Puget Sound there. So I didn't find that list to be anywhere near as interesting. And then I think the majority of the ones in Oregon are going to be Bandon Dunes anyways. Trying to think if there's any others that even ring a bell. But the California was the cool one.
Well, you obviously you had a picture on that link that you supplied of those holes, and you played one of my favorite courses in America. I think it's the most fun per dollar in America, and that's the municipal course, the Links at Pacific Grove.
Oh, yes.
Back nine, it's got ice plant, it's got dunes, it's got a lighthouse. It's beat the heck. It's short. It's par 70. If you can't break 80 there, and the front nine, it starts with back-to-back par threes.
Yeah,
it's the quirkiest place ever, and if you've spent a couple days at Pebble paying $1 million a round, you can go there and really cost average your trip down. What do you think?
Anytime I'm in Pebble Beach or anybody asks me, I say go play Pacific Grove, and don't let the first two holes fool you. Actually, the first 9, because it's coming. And the whole back 9 is a rip roaring good time. That 10 coming out, and then 11 and 12 is maybe one of the best holes on the peninsula. It's not in the Pebble Beach condition, but it's certainly a really cool place to golf your ball. And I think it's like $50. Maybe it's a little more now, but you get a deal compared to the soon to be $1,000 to play Pebble Beach.
Wow. Well, then you've got up in San Francisco, Sharp Park has a couple of holes that are close to the ocean, doesn't it?
Yeah, Sharp Park is an interesting story because it's an old Mackenzie that there's not much Mackenzie left. They've I think there's an issue with like a frog and a snake there that have been endangered, and so they're looking to preserve that.
Only in California.
There's a way that this frog and snake can exist with the golfers. And I think that's the problem, that you've got two people that think, they're not open-minded in how to work together. And that's a shame, because that golf course, we love Alistair McKenzie and these classic designs. There's not a lot of them. And it certainly would be appreciated by golfers. I think there's maybe 1 or 2 holes that remain in the original routing of the Good Doctor. But there are a couple that they're still fun to play. You're out by the ocean there, and you can actually see, I don't know what it looks like. I haven't played it recently, what it looks like now. But you could kind of see where some of the old holes have been routed, and boy, it makes you think. I know Tom Doak submitted a proposal, or took a look at it and submitted something, but you need money to make these sort of things happen. And
for some reason there's a
municipal course,
anti-golf faction in San Francisco area for some reason. I'm not sure why.
I think I don't know if it's politics, right? And so it's money as well.
And maybe the Audubon Society should take a look at the species list, because I know that people have been concerned sometimes about the shrubs, the trees, the birds, all that kind of thing that exists on a golf course. And I know instances of people counting critters that were there after the golf course was built and before the golf course was built. And they found that having the golf course there actually increased like the number of birds and other things. I know they did that at Amelia Island. So
Oh yeah, in South Carolina. Yeah. It's true. I think that there's a faction of golf courses that were built in the 80s and 90s that didn't have regard for the environment. And that's, I think, where a lot of this perception comes from, because today's architects build things with that sort of thought in mind.
Yes.
They're not looking to poison the land. They're looking to expose people to it, enhance it, and build a recreational place that is in harmony with that particular landscape. And if done right, it can really do marvels for, because, we're humans, we live here as well. And there's an interaction between us and nature. And I think golf can be a very harmonious one if done properly, right? Because there's some things that golf course developers have done that have hurt the land in the past. And, that's not the aim, I think, of a lot of today's golf course builders and architects.
There are some places that have golf courses on them that with today's regulation, the courses would never be built.
Right.
And I live right next to one of them, so I'm completely aware of that.
Well, the all-time champ was Spanish Bay, which built a sand dune on the course. And then when they went to do something with it, we're told they couldn't touch it because it was a sand dune. But we built it ourselves. So that's a whole long story. So, Patrick, what was your low score on this round? What was your high score?
It's a good question. I had one round where I shot 67. That was in Arizona on the early going when I started feeling the stride, right? So as you play that much golf, your short game gets good.
Yes.
And most of us don't play enough golf to roll in that many putts or to be that consistent to shoot a 67. But that was good playing by me. I don't get down into the 60s. I think maybe the 60s I was maybe half a dozen times out of all 580 courses. So that was a good day. But the bad day was a place outside of Atlanta. The name eludes me, or maybe I just blocked it out. But it was I shot a 91 there, and it was 13 penalty strokes. I was just firing balls into the woods like it was my job. And
wow.
That was the only round, I could have kept it in the 80s. Looking back, I kind of got.
Was it Augusta National?
Yeah, no, I would have remembered that one. I would have remembered that one. But I could have kept it in the 80s. So that's, it taught me something about, you can still lose your cool, at least lose your composure and like my focus went completely out the window after like the 8th or 9th penalty shot. I was just like, whatever. And, I counted all the strokes and, sadly wrote down a 91 because my previous low was 86. So that was an anomaly.
Yeah. Well, that was probably a mental fatigue factor from all that golf too.
Yeah. I shot 74 the morning before the 91.
What was the toughest weather day you had to play in?
Oh yeah, Royal
Using
New Kent.
The phrase "had to" in a.
I do. I had to play Royal New Kent.
Had to play
Royal New Kent in. Is that Virginia? I think it's Virginia.
Yes, Virginia.
And I showed up at the golf course. There's a pouring down rain, and I was like just showing up to say, "Hey, I'm here." I'm sure the golf course is closed, and they like, "No, you can go play if you want." I'm like, wow. All right, I'm not going to say no because I'm hell bent on getting these courses in. And Royal New Kent was one I really wanted to see. And so Strand's design, pretty interesting. But I didn't get to see much of it that day because it was sideways rain. The umbrella broke on like the 4th hole. The first hole was a river. The whole place, like the fairway was a water hazard. The greens. So I'm slapping the ball around. It's like, all right, well, it's getting in the hole. This counts. And I come up to the 10th hole. I'm getting ready to tee off in the 10th hole. And the superintendent comes out and I hear him. He starts, waving me over, and we got into what I would like to call a heated discussion, where I'm trying to explain to him what I'm doing. I wanted to finish the back nine, otherwise it doesn't count for the record.
Right.
And I just got completely soaked. I wouldn't have been any wetter if I jumped in a swimming pool. And so I want to finish, and he's kind of like, "You're telling me this counts if you play?" I was like, well, as long as it goes in the hole, it does. And so at one point he relented and said, "Fine." And so I didn't say another word. I just turned around and played. And when I came in afterwards to thank him for letting me play, he had done a little research and saw what I was doing. He's like, "I'm glad I let you out there. It's cool.
That's good.
We're a part of this." And
Did,
so I have nothing.
Did Stewie make it around that round, or was that?
No, Stewie. This was in the it was in the golf cart, but I wasn't on the fairway, so I don't know if that was any better or whatever. But
Stewie was laughing his butt off at the end of this one, right?
Yeah, he was dry the next day. He's like happy to play in that nonsense. But yeah, I'm very, very grateful to Royal New Kent, and they're part of the journey. It was certainly not a good day, and I'd love to come back and play that on a sunny day.
Did you play high school golf or college golf, or you must?
I played high school. I thought about doing golf at college, but at that point in my life, I was more interested in the parties and the girls running around Indiana University, and chasing them. And so it's a commitment once you get to the college level. And I was pretty good. I had a 77 competitive average in Indiana, which was good enough back in the day to play number one in high school about 2000, which the times have changed now. 77 out here in California this day and age, you wouldn't even sniff the team.
No.
So, but back then it was so much fun. It was just any sort of team sports at that age are enjoyable, and you kind of learn a lot from them. But I passed on the college, and I'm glad I did, because obviously it turned out this way. And had I played at the level, I don't think mentally I would have had the game or the mental strength to do much with a college career. And fortunately, it led me here.
Well, I know this is like asking you to pick your favorite kids, but can you give me 3 courses you played in this trip that you absolutely have to go play a second time after seeing it?
I'd love to. Can I get the chance to play them a second time is the question. And first off, number one, my favorite golf course was Sand Hills in Mullen, Nebraska. Spectacular place. I can't say enough great things about that. And my experience there was a very special one. I rerouted a large portion of the trip to make sure I got there on the very final day that they're open, and played it in perfect day and got some great photos of one of the best golf courses in the world there. Other ones was Shinnecock Hills is also a very good place to play golf. It's a tough invite, tough tee time to get. Not a lot of members, especially in July. But a friend of a friend, I booked a tee time, and then people have asked me this question before, and I have yet to figure out number 3. I say there's a 20-way tie for third place. I'm going to sort that all out. I'm working on putting together a book, and
it's probably Pacific Grove.
Pacific Grove.
Immaculate conditioning.
Yeah, just that back nine.
What states in the mainland did you not play on this trip?
It was mostly out of a logistical situation. Delaware got skipped right there next to Delaware, but there's not a ton of really good golf in Delaware, so that didn't happen. North Dakota got skipped. Iowa was a bummer. I was kind of hustling over because I had to finish up and set the record in Colorado, so I would have loved to spend more time in Nebraska and Iowa. And then like Montana and Wyoming, those places did get some love. I don't know I haven't looked at the 9 states that didn't get any love, but Hawaii and Alaska, obviously, for those are a little out of the way. But it was mostly, I was just kind of going where I could find the next good golf course in my route. Kind of didn't make a lot of sense to drive for 5 hours through Montana to see one golf course.
Yeah. Did you play any courses with sand greens?
No, I've never played one with sand greens.
They used to have them.
They used to have them.
There's still some left in the Dakotas and maybe in Colorado, but there's not a lot.
Hale Irwin grew up playing on sand greens.
Yeah, back in the day, the fun story I heard about Pinehurst, because Pinehurst used to have the sand greens, and
Maybe, yeah.
Donald Ross was, I think it's the 4th fairway where old Donnie used to live. And part of his genius was he would watch the players play his sand greens, and he'd watch them to see where they made putts and kind of just learn from there, watching players play the green he designed. And then he'd go out there and change the slope on those sand greens, because it's not like today. And then he'd see how that affect them either making more putts or whatnot. I'm like, what a way to kind of tinker with your craft that is not available anymore. And so that's why I think people love Donald Ross greens. So
what's next? There's our shameless plug as we attempt to get enough viewers to get any money back, which is but that's okay. Don't do it for the sympathy. Do it because you love golf.
That's right.
What's next for you, Patrick? Is the golf photography business, is there enough money in that, or do you have to do something else? Are you plotting another super adventure?
Yeah, there is enough money, I think. And if any, that's what I'm doing is golf course photography, and I'll be doing it this next year, and hopefully filling up my calendar. But I'm always amazed at the courses that don't have a budget for their golf course photography. They'll spend $1 million on their golf course, and it's this amazing asset that I think most golf courses don't share enough and don't sing the beauty of their courses. And that's my mission, is to help them do that. And I'll be doing that all next year. And you kind of you find some other ways to make some money, whether it's, prints or selling it to magazines. And you can see my work in PGA Tour Superstores on the walls.
RGV Tour calendar. Where's that?
Yeah, the calendar. I don't know how much money are in calendars. I'm going to do it in the book. So I'll write the book. I'm doing the book just because I want to do it, because I'm going to make some money. But I've done some cool things. I'm going to the waste management with breakfast balls this week, and then I've got I'll be shooting the Pro-Am at the Genesis Invitational, which will be really fun to capture some of this. I'll shoot anything golf, right? That's kind of my niche. I love the course photography, obviously, and so. I'm available. There's still, there's a lot of days in the year to do what I do. And I've got some jobs already booked. And that's the beauty of it, is that I'm working as hard as I can to keep on doing what I love and not have to go back to a life in tech sales, which I was doing before. Because this is as good as it gets. Doesn't feel like I'm working. I would, the old saying, exactly. If you would do it for free, you can find somebody to pay you. And I'm happy that there's a market and there's value for what I love to do. And I think, that's I'm one of the few people that gets to do their passion for a living. And that is when you can actually find out a way to do that, it really changes your life.
And you set a world record. So congratulations on that. What an adventure. We look forward to the book. Where can people find you on the web to look at your photos and keep up with you?
Yeah, so it's PJ Koenig is my website, pjkoenig.com, and that's kind of was born out of my Instagram handle. This is PJ Koenig as well, and then I'm on Twitter as well at Patrick J Koenig. Couldn't quite get that that PJ Koenig handle there, but that's okay.
You mean there's two of you?
Yeah, it would have been nice to have two of me this year, but
thank you very much.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for those stories. That was terrific.
Hey, thanks for having me. This was fun.